The number one difference between an amateur and an expert is the expert focuses on positioning rather than specific moves. Today we're going to be going over positioning in neutral, top, and bottom. When you're doing your techniques, you need to go through each step of the technique. If you skip a step of the technique, what's going to happen is you're going to miss the takedown or miss the turn or not get the escape. So make sure you step through each technique. Number two, before going to the next step in the technique, you need to make sure your positioning is correct. For example, if I'm in a double leg, before I finish my double leg, I want to get to this upright position. If I'm bent over and I try to stand up to my feet while I'm bent over, the person can sprawl on me and I'll get extended. So make sure your positioning is correct before you move on to the next step. Now I'm going to go into detail on bottom, top, and neutral and some different examples of where people mess up on their positioning. The first thing we're going to work on is our bottom positioning. So for the bottom positioning, our number one escape is a quad pod stand-up. As I'm doing this stand-up, like I said earlier, if I lose positioning, I need to stop, fix my positioning before I move on to the next step. Some of the things I'm looking for specifically on bottom is not giving up my wrist and not allowing my hips to come off my heels. So if I'm on bottom and I'm trying to get my escape, but as I'm trying to get my escape, my opponent grabs my wrist, I need to clear my wrist free before I get out and get my escape. Another thing I want to make sure I'm not doing is as I'm trying to escape, if my butt comes off my heel, so my hips come up like this, I need to make sure I get my hips back down before, again, going to my escape. If I'm even further in the stand-up, so say I'm all the way up to here, and my partner gets my wrist, I am not going to go to the next step. I'm not going to stand up. I'm going to clear my wrist free and then get my escape. So those are the two things I'm focusing on bottom as far as positioning. Keep your hips low and keep your hands free. Now, the second thing I want to focus on as far as bottom positioning is I want to show you some stuff from the sit-out position. From the sit-out position, so I'm here. In the sit-out position, I do not want to either be crunched up like this or be like this where my hips are out and my back is leaning this way. Because here I'll get pinned and here I can also get cradled. I also want to make sure my opponent is directly behind me. So as I'm working for my escape here, I need to make sure my positioning is correct. So if my positioning goes back here, before I go for my escape, I'm going to fix my positioning, make sure I'm upright, then I'm going to work for my escape. So that's the main thing I'm focusing on bottom. Don't give up your wrists, keep your hips low, and for the sit-out position, keep them directly behind you and make sure your body's not leaning backwards too much or forwards too much before working for your next move. Moving on to neutral, the first thing I want to talk about is proper positioning in your stance. So for your stance, we're low, we're able to touch the mat, we have one leg forward, our head is slightly tilted down, our elbows are in, our hands are down, they're not up like this. So when I go to make contact with my partner, I need to make sure I keep good positioning. So it's keep good positioning before you move on to the next step in your technique. Some of the things I'm looking out for is one, we do not want to reach with our lead leg hand. So if I'm in my stance, my right hand's job, which is my lead hand, is to protect my leg and to attack. So when I go to make contact with my opponent, I don't want to reach that hand up because it's exposing this leg and allowing an opening for an attack. The next thing I don't want to do is I don't want to stand up as I go to make contact. When I go to make contact, I stay in good positioning as I go to make contact. If I stand up, again, I'm exposing my legs and allowing the person an opening to attack. Another thing I'm looking forward or looking to do in my stance is grab my partner's elbows when they make contact. So if my partner goes to grab my triceps and makes contact, I want to control the elbows and not reach up to her shoulders. If I reach up to her shoulders, my arms are coming out like this and I'm exposing my legs. So proper positioning when your partner ties up with you is your elbows stay in and you reach up and control those elbows. The last thing with stance we talked about is keeping your lead leg forward. You never want to square your stance up in a match, because what happens when you square your stance up is, one, they can snap you to the floor, and two, they can attack either legs. When I have one leg forward, it's very difficult for them to attack the back leg, and when they snap, my front leg can brace the impact. I'll show you what I mean real quick. So go into a square stance with your feet equal. From here, I can easily pull my wife to the mat here. If she puts her right leg forward, that leg can brace for impact a little bit better. Now let's move on to positioning in our shots. There is proper positioning in every single shot. Most positioning that's correct is head up, hips in, back straight. I call it the scarecrow position. So my partner goes here. I want to be upright, just like this. Double, high crotch, or single. So turn this way. Just like this. My hips are underneath me, my head's up, my hips normally touching this knee, and I'm just like this. So if my positioning breaks, so my back gets bent over or my head gets put down, I need to fix my positioning, get back to here before finishing the takedown. So what I want you to do is lean on top of me and sprawl your legs back a little bit. So go ahead and lean. Yep, bring your legs back. So I'm here. This is not good positioning. I am not gonna go finish until I fix my positioning. I'm not gonna try and knock her over. So what I wanna do is get back to that scarecrow positioning by driving in, bringing my hips in, and getting back to here. Once I get to my good positioning here with my hips in, my leg at a 45-degree angle, my head up, then I can stand up to my feet, lift, and finish the takedown. Similar with the single leg, I'm over here. Just go ahead and sprawl, so legs back. Yep, I'm here. I do not try and finish. I need to drive in, get back up to this position with my head up, my hips in, my back straight, my leg at a 45, and now I can drive up to my feet and look to finish that takedown. Don't skip steps. Don't go to the next thing before your positioning is fixed. Another thing I want to do is, if I feel myself getting extended and my positioning breaking really, really bad, like say I'm about to hit both knees, or my head's about to hit the mat, or I'm even going to hit my stomach, I must let go of the leg and use one hand to post. So I keep the leg with one hand and post with the other. Normally, I'm going to keep the leg with my attack hand. So here's what I mean. So I'm in great positioning here. If my partner goes to sprawl, so hips in, yep, walk back, and I feel this knee hitting the mat or my head hitting the mat, I'm going to let go with my left hand, my non-dominant hand, and post. I do not want to allow myself to hit my knees or to hit my face, or definitely not hit your stomach. So I want to post, and then after I post, I can fix my positioning. So get back in, drive in, get back to my scarecrow positioning, and then I can finish. And now I'm going to talk about shoulder positioning on both the high crotch and the single. This is a very key detail in your positioning that you need to make sure is correct before moving on to the finish. So when I'm in a high crotch, my shoulder needs to stay in between the legs. If my shoulder slips out, just like that, I need to make sure I put my shoulder back into position before moving on to the finish. So for example, come over here real quick. My partner sprawls out, so legs go back, both legs, yep, and my shoulder starts getting popped out like this. I am not looking to finish the takedown right away. I want to crawl in and fix that shoulder positioning, and then I can move on to the finish. This makes a lot of sense in the crackdown position as well. My shoulder needs to stay in between the legs. So if I'm here in this crackdown position and my shoulder slips out, again, I need to fix my shoulder positioning. So defensively, when somebody shoots a high crotch on me, I'm always trying to beat that shoulder positioning, get his shoulder to be pushed out so that I can defend the takedown. So make sure you fix that shoulder positioning and you make that a high priority when finishing your high crotch. Similarly, for the single leg, my shoulder, again, wants to be behind. It wants to be behind the hamstring almost, or at least on the side. So turn this way a little bit. My shoulder can't be popped out like this. All right, my body's weak there. I bring my shoulder behind and hold that leg tight. So if my partner sprawls in a single, yep, my shoulder starts popping out. I'm looking to crawl in and fix that shoulder positioning like that. Shoulder needs to go right kind of in the side of their leg. Needs to stay in tight. I cannot let myself get extended, and I cannot let that shoulder pop out of place almost, okay? Next positioning I want to talk about is having a single leg in the air. So when I have a single leg in the air and the leg is in between, here's some things, some positioning details I want to make sure are correct before moving on to the next step. First, back elbow has to be deep. I don't want the lock on the leg. Back elbow deep, okay? Head is up and into the ribs, and I'm twisted at an angle here. I'm not directly facing her. I'm twisted at an angle, back elbow deep, head up and into her. All right, so those are the key details I'm looking for when the single's in between my leg. Now, when I bring the single up to my armpit, I want to go, there's a couple different options. You can grab the heel. I like going laces in the armpit. So pretend she has shoelaces on. I scoop that into my armpit, Pledge of Allegiance, back elbow, other elbow deep, and I lift here. So I want to be here. So if I'm forwards on the knee joint, I need to slide back and get those laces into my armpit just like that. Now, let's talk about positioning in the sprawl. So we'll talk about single and double, and we'll also talk about high crotch. For a sprawl, we need to make sure we're not high up on them. I want my stomach low enough for the single and the double, it's going to be on the head. For the high crotch, the stomach's going to be on the shoulder to defend a shot. The higher I am up, the worse my positioning is. Boom. All right. Go crawl, dude. So we're in a high crotch position here. If I'm up high on top of her and I try to spin around, right? I try to go to the next step, they're going to pull the leg in tighter and they're going to finish the takedown. So that's why it's important to fix your positioning before moving on to the next step. So my partner has a high crotch. I want my stomach on this near shoulder and my hips in here. Now I'm in a position where I can grab the ankle and spin behind. Now for a single leg and a double leg, my stomach is going to more go on top of her head. So if my partner has a single leg now with their head on the inside here, instead of my stomach going on the shoulder, I want my stomach to cover the head in this position here. Again, if I'm super high on top of her and try to spin around, they'll actually pull you into them tighter and be able to finish the takedown. So make sure your stomach is on the back of the head before going to score in the sprawl position. That's for single or double. And with high crotch, make sure your stomach is on that shoulder and your hips are in before moving to the next step and scoring your defensive takedown. Now moving on to the top position. The first thing I want to talk about is don't go for the pin or the turn when you feel in danger. I'm going to show you guys a couple different examples. First, I'm going to show you guys that's very common for leg riders is trying to do a power half when they're about to get reversed. For example, say I throw a leg in on my opponent and I start falling off to the side, she's on her elbow, and I'm falling off. I'm about to get reversed. It's not time to try to pin the person and slip off the top and get reversed. You need to fix your positioning, and for a leg rider, good positioning is on top. So I need to get back on top, get my hips up, get back on top, and then I can go on to the turn. So don't turn when you're in danger. Fix your positioning before going on to the turn. Another example, say you like tilts. If I'm here and I'm about to go do a tilt and my partner starts peeling my hand, so use your other hand, and I'm feeling like my grip's losing, I'm not gonna go for the tilt. I'm not gonna roll underneath. Make sure you secure the wrist before moving on to the tilt. Now another common one is say you have a half Nelson. So you're on your stomach, and I start going for a half Nelson here. Hand goes underneath. Yeah, that's fine. Hand goes underneath. I start driving here, and say my chest is too high. So I'm driving, but I'm too high up like this. If I proceed to go for the pin, I may get bridged and rolled through. So make sure with the half Nelson, as you're going for this pin, I'm about to pin here, I need to slide back and then drive again and get the finish. One other positioning I want to talk about with turning is arm bar, right? If you like running arm bars and you're here, you go to run, but you feel yourself getting kind of pushed back this way. A common defense to an arm bar is essentially flipping you back this way. You need to stop running the arm bar, fix your positioning, and then drive it again. My wife's not used to wrestling at all, so. The last key positioning detail for top, it's actually two: stay behind the pits and stay behind the hips. So my partner's down. When I'm on top trying to control my opponent, I normally want to stay in between their armpits. All right, I can have different grips here, but I don't want to wrestle with my hands on the outside. Yes, you can do an arm chop, and that's a great option, but most of the time you want to get your hands underneath the armpits to stay in control. It makes it much more difficult to your partner to escape, especially go to the sit-out position, so just sit on your butt with your feet facing the camera. So especially in the sit-out position, I need to be underneath these pits. If I'm outside, it's very easy for the person to do a sit and roll and get out from bottom. Second thing is staying behind the hips, like I said. Normally when you're on top, you don't want to run your feet out in front of them. Like when you're going for turns and pins, you got to be careful. You want to stay behind the hips here, in a position where you can control the person with your legs, right? You don't want to run out. This happens with a lot of youth kids. They'll run out trying to turn the person, and their partner will just grab your leg and reverse you. So, all in all, positioning is what matters. With every technique, there's steps to the technique, and you need to make sure you check each step before moving on. Is the technique perfect in that step? Okay, now I can move on. All right, is the technique perfect in that step? Okay, I can move on. Do not rush the technique. Make sure it's perfect before moving on, and you're gonna score a lot more. Feel free to comment below what you guys wanna see next, and I'll see you guys in the next video.